Hello, Professor Parker. Good morning. My name is Ved Mystery. I'm the founder of Engineering and Research Leaders of Tomorrow, an organization dedicated to making scientific research and engineering education more accessible to students from a younger age. Would you like to give a short introduction about yourself?
Vid, thanks a lot for your interest in what we do. I'm the Tar Family Professor of Bioengineering and Applied Physics at Harvard, and I'm a member of the Disease Biophysics group, and we kind of work at the interface between biology, materials science, and the arts. And our group is very transdisciplinary in that we work in lots of different things. Big focus on pediatric diseases, developing organs on chips, regenerative medicine, a variety of materials science issues that go from food to fashion to beauty and everything in between. And then we have a lot of artists in the group too that kind of contribute to the creative mojo. So we kind of, one of the things I'm personally interested in, those things that are at the interface between science and art. So we work in all of those.
All right, that sounds quite interesting. Would you like to tell us maybe about some research projects that you currently have ongoing?
Sure. So we've got a few. One of the things we're trying to do is use stem cell technology, iPS cells, and new lessons learned in microfabrication to build what we call organs on chips or microphysiological systems. And that's where I take some cells and I build just enough of a human organ so that we can get all the structure function relationships required to mimic the organ. And then we might take the cells from someone who's diseased, scrape some skin cells off their arm and make a model, say, of their heart. And let's just say these people have a rare disease, a genetic disease like Barth syndrome or something like that. We can study their disease in a dish, and we can even try different drugs on it so that we can get human data, we can get patient data without exposing the patient to a drug or treatment protocol that might not necessarily have any efficacy or might be unsafe for them. So that's one of the things I'm really excited about, and that's de-risking clinical trials for children.
Very interesting. So what road bumps have you hit so far with this project, or what's gone well for you in this project so far?
Well, I mean, I think that we've had some successes. I got a great team. We got some people in my lab over the years that have done fantastic jobs with this. People that have really worked hard and got us to where we are today. I mean, there's always a scientific challenges. Building the team that does these things are really challenging because, I think we train students to think that if they're good at homework, then they're going to be good at research. And there's two totally different things there. Because when you are doing homework, the answers are in the back of the book, right? The thing is that someone's done it before. They know the answer. The learning objectives are well defined. They're nice and clean, very Cartesian. Everything's in black and white. But life is shades of gray. And in science and technology development, we're asking you to go where there's nothing to make something. And so for a lot of people who need that constant feedback and affirmation that they're doing a good job, they're very difficult to transition into research, where you don't always know if you're doing a good job, where you don't know if you're going to be right. And you could work for years and years and years and wind up being wrong. So, but there's lots of lessons learned in being wrong. And you always have to ask yourself, what was the challenge here? Was the science not ready for it? Was I not ready for it? There's so many different failure modes in any particular scientific problem. And, sometimes it's hard for people to grasp what those might be. Usually, like when an airplane fails, it's never one bolt that breaks. It's multi-system failure. And that's usually what happens when some science goes sideways, is that there's multiple components of it that have failed.
That makes sense. Now, I also want to ask that I'm sure you've done many research projects in your laboratory. So I wanted to ask, What is your favorite project that you've ever worked on?
Well, understanding how a cell or tissue builds itself. And we've had some fantastic work over the years by Pauline Ku in my group is now professor at National Taiwan University. Anya Grossberg, who's now professor at University of California, Irvine. Megan McCain, who's professor at University of Southern California. Adam Feinberg, who's professor at Carnegie Mellon University. Pat Alford, who's professor at University of Minnesota. We've had a few people that really did some fantastic work in our lab to understand how a cardiac muscle cell builds itself. And then Yvonne Ayrton too, and then understand that once you have these cells that built themselves, how do they build a tissue? And for me, in terms of the pure science, that choreography of how all these proteins come together, how they synchronize everything, that's been something that's been really exciting for me. I don't like getting down in the weeds. I don't want to spend my whole career studying some protein called JERK7 and all the different isoforms of it. I want to see a big picture, an integrated picture of what I study, and so that's the most exciting for me.
Sounds good.
And what we realized is that in most of these genetic diseases, the problem is the cells don't follow the rules. They can't build themselves properly. They can't build the tissue properly. And that's why you got the disease. So that's why it's rewarding, because we get insight as to why people have these diseases that we just really struggle to try to treat in the clinic.
Got it. That actually led right into my next question. I was going to ask, what would you say is the most rewarding part of scientific research?
Well, I'm a professor, and so I do science in a different environment than, say, if I was at Genentech or Amgen or something like that. And that, whereas they're trying to get a product out the door for a patient, and I'm early stage on that. So as a professor, I have to get science out the door, but I also have to get people out the door. So obviously I get some scientific satisfaction from, a paper getting published, but depending on the paper or the project, sometimes I'm getting more satisfaction out of watching that student or postdoc who has fought really hard for years to get something done, and watching them get out the door, get the project out the door. That's really rewarding, watching that. And it's hard to understand how to motivate someone to do this, especially if they've never done it before. They've really got to be self-motivated. Some people are motivated by a pat in the back, some by a boot in the ass. Some people are naturally wired that they're going to, stay on a problem until 2 o'clock in the morning, like a dog on a soup bone, right?
Mm-hmm.
But other people, a student time in the lab can be a really eye-opening experience for people. Do you want it bad enough to stay in the lab till midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, working on a problem? Or do you like science that's over at 5 p.m. every day, and then you go home and watch TV or do whatever it is you do with your family or something? So I think a lot of times in the academic environment, people are trying to decide how much they really like, not just the science, but the science lifestyle, because it is not easy. It's very rewarding, but it's not easy. If you're looking for 9 to 5, the science doesn't turn off at 5 o'clock and then turn back on at 9. These scientific problems, from my experience, plague you round the clock until you whip them down. And so when you see a student who's made that commitment, who's fought through that, maybe they decided science wasn't for them, but they're not going to quit. I love watching that. So people, that's the most rewarding thing from a lot of these projects, always people.
That was good information for sure. And I'm sure that, in order to be able to work in the late hours, in order to stay dedicated to science, didn't seem to have a lot of motivation. But what trait would you say is most crucial to a student who wants to do scientific research? Like, how can you just tell, like, if someone has this trait, I feel like they're going to be better at scientific research?
Resiliency. When your idea doesn't work, when you're told your work is not good enough, you cannot cry. You cannot quit. You got to say, take it for what it's worth and go back in the lab and keep cranking. You've got to be resilient. You've got to be strong. You don't have to be the smartest person, but if you're strong, I can make you a good scientist. I can make you a good scientist. But it all boils down to whether or not you want it. Do you really want it?
Makes sense. Now, what words of advice would you give to a student who is interested in pursuing bioengineering or scientific research in general?
You have to recognize when people are, well, homework is homework, right? Doing courses is not the same thing as doing work in the lab. So I think it's really important for students when they go to college to get a laboratory experience and understand if the culture of cutting edge science, which is tough, is really what they want. Or if they want the comfort of just someone's going to hold the bar up, they're going to jump up, they're going to hit that bar, then they're good to go for the day. Because when you're in science, you're on a basketball court, you're jumping up trying to hit the rim, but you know where the rim is, right? In science, you don't know where the rim is. You don't know where the rim is. And you got to be willing to jump and jump and jump and jump, hoping you can get strong enough to reach up there and get that rim someday. You got to be comfortable with working in an uncertain environment where you don't know where the standard of success is.
Got it. That's a good analogy, actually. Yeah. Now, a completely unrelated question. What's your favorite sports team?
Boston Red Sox.
All right, so baseball fan then.
Yeah.
Now, I'm still looking to do more interviews with more professors to try and gather as many perspectives as I can on this topic and create a useful YouTube bank for students to be able to see. So if possible, do you think you would be open to helping me connect with other professors to conduct similar interviews?
So if I were you, I'd reach out to some of the people that I've just mentioned. Call Megan McCain down there at University of Southern California. Call Anya Grossberg down there at UC Irvine. Call Adam Feinberg at Carnegie Mellon or Pat Alford at University of Minnesota. Call Ashu Agarwal at University of Miami or Kartik Balachandran at the University of Arkansas. Layla Dharavi at Northeastern University. These are my trainees who are doing cool research in a bunch of different areas. And there's a lot of diversity there. And Renita Horton at the University of Houston, I would definitely reach out to her, and ask them some of these same questions.
Okay, I'll do that then. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
All right, I don't have any other questions for today, but do you have any concluding remarks before we close?
No, but I just want to encourage young people to think about getting into science and thinking about understanding that homework is great. If you're great at it, don't get overconfident. If you're not great at it, don't think that science is not for you. I've gone through chapters of my life where I was not very good at homework, and I still found that I enjoyed science. So don't worry about your grades. Just worry about the material. If you like the material, it'll come to you.
Got it.
Okay?
Okay, sounds
good. All right, Bet, good luck to you, okay? And good luck in your college applications, all right?
Thank you. Have a good day.
Take care, bye-bye.
Bye.